Let's start over. Welcome back to the Multipurpose Mom Podcast, where we talk about everything faith, life, marriage, entrepreneurship, friendship, chaos, everything in between. So grab your coffee and let's jump in with talking with Bree. Bree is, I'm going to read her bio here. She's a 33-year-old wife and mom of 4. She's in a blended family, walking closely with the ways of the Lord since 2020. After 13 years as a nurse, primarily in long-term care, and 3.5 years of sobriety, she stepped away from full-time work to pursue homeschooling and nurse coaching. In this unexpected shift to pause, she found out what it truly means to be still and the amount of surrender it requires. I should read these out loud a few times before I start, but it's fine.
God is good.
So we began talking beforehand, and I was like, "Oh, we gotta hit record because it was so good." So I am gonna start with, tell me. And I was actually planning. I was like, I'm gonna ask her more about nurse coaching because I'm really curious. Because Paige also. So just a little story. I don't know Bree super well. We go to church together, but it's a big church, so a lot of people don't get to connect at a real personal level. But you launched your nurse coaching, and as a nurse, I'm a nurse myself, so I'm curious, like, what is nurse coaching and how does that differ from like everyday life coaching?
Yeah, so I feel like the difference between nurse coaching is it takes our experience as nurses and applies it to basically helping clients figure out the root cause of illness, mental health struggles, just it can go as little as even just disorganized thinking. We understand in nursing school, they teach us the entire spectrum. Right, you learn about pediatrics, mental health, and so everything's like all pushed into like, the 1 year for LPNs, 2 years for RNs.
Right.
And so forth. But this is more root cause nursing.
Okay.
So basically, I was actually online and I was filling out an application to become a nurse practitioner.
Oh, okay.
And I saw this advertisement. I actually went through the Nurse Coach Collective, and you can find out more information online for that. It's with Heather Lapidez and Peter Geiza. So they created this program a couple years ago. And so I saw an advertisement for it, and I remember praying about it. I listened to them, and I'm like, oh, this is me. Like, it talked about nurse burnout and, like, are you tired of going into work for 12 hours and seeing the same patients, the things that nurses talk about, like, okay,
right.
we're not seeing the problem solved.
Right.
So after I heard that, I'm like, okay, maybe this is it. And so I got on a call with somebody the next day. I called them and I was like, I'm interested. And I filled out an application. And the lady who called me was a Christian. So I was like, okay, Lord, all right, I see. And then she became she was my teacher for the collective duration, so it was super powerful.
Okay.
Whereas I will say that there is some like new age things in here, like a lot of
but as your own practitioner, you get to choose what you insert. That's really cool.
Correct.
Yeah, I like
that. And they really
that.
focus on spirituality. And there's also you mentioned Paige. There is a bunch of nurse coaching Christian schools being developed.
Okay.
So basically, when I stepped into this, they are pioneering this. And health insurance companies are slow right now, but they're starting to recognize nurse coaching as like a wellness preventative type of.
Okay.
Yeah. So, looking long term, this very well could be like a shift in healthcare.
Healthcare
in general.
Covers.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That is cool. And so, like, do they require? It's funny because your story was like you were looking to further your nursing because you started out as an LPN, correct?
Yes.
And that
CNA.
is what I am. Oh, okay.
Yeah, to LPN.
I started out as an LPN. I actually wanted to be a midwife.
Oh, okay.
And I've been obsessed with babies my whole life. So I started having them a little too soon, and just it's evolved from there. I had approached a midwife and told her, I was like, I became a mom at 15, dropped out of high school, but I want to be a midwife. She's like, okay, she heard that story so many times. Well, maybe not all of that, but she heard from so many people that they want to be midwives. And so she said, go sign up for this LPN program and, get your GD, sign up for this and call me. And 6 months later, I said, okay, I start nursing school next week. And she couldn't believe it. And so finished nursing school. I actually did apprentice as a midwife for 2 years. But then, life circumstances, I ended up having to work in long-term care for too many years. Sucked 8 years right from my life. But
goes quick.
Yeah. And for so long, I was like, because I've always been one to like advance to the next thing. It's the leadership, the leader in me. Like every job I've ever had, I've advanced, and there's only so much you can do as an LPN. And even in my years as an LPN in a long-term care facility, I got to do a lot of things that most LPNs don't. Mm-hmm. I held a lot of leadership roles, but I was going to go back to nursing school, and then one day I was just like, why am I doing this? I don't even want to be a nurse. Like, why would I invest all that time and energy and money into going back? Because I felt like I wasn't good enough as an LPN. But then I found home care. I do private duty. Okay. And the same when you said, like, you know, you got the same patients for 12 hours and you feel like you cry on your way home almost every day because you don't feel like you did any of those patients any kind of justice or any kind of good. And so for private duty, I feel like I at least get to do that, you know. I get to provide that holistic care, you know. So I know I used to, like, years ago I had a patient because I left nursing completely when I had Matthias for like eight years. Oh wow. And I would say, oh, I cleaned their house today, and Phil's like, I thought you were the nurse. And I'm like, well, it's holistic. If it helps the mom, exactly. You know, I'm not, if he's napping and I'm just going to sit around. So it's been great. So yeah, it's all encompassing. And I think we also could agree that in long-term care, the nurse is everything. I'll never forget when I was a babyer nurse. I guess you could call it that. I was like frustrated. I'm like, so every time another disciplinary member of the team has an issue and they can't resolve it, they'll come to the nurse, and it's an honor. But back then and even now, it's like, but you're so overwhelmed. Right, you're already doing you're like, all I can't, of the like, things. You know, if the dietitian has a question, you know, they're all coming to you, and so it is an honor, and it truly has so much power, and that's why I believe that this piece is kind of like an unveiling to what God is doing in healthcare, honestly. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I love that. I know Paige has talked, she comes to our women's group, and so she's talked a little bit about it, but I was like, oh, I wonder what this this nurse coaching is, because I've been interested in doing life coaching, but I just haven't. I want to make sure when I commit to, like, sign up to a class that I can, like, commit to finishing the class. Yes, that's super important. But yeah, it's been hard at first to explain it, but now that, you know, I'm fully, like, asking the Lord, of course, you know, where do you have me? It's just been beautiful because, and another thing about my name is, like, be still. I told this to Pastor Jonathan, actually. After I left nursing, I was actually director of nursing. And this is really cool how God speaks to us. It was actually at a nursing home called Point Place. Okay. On Summit Street. And as I'm praying about my career, he's showing me that he's taken me to the top. Like, where else are you going to go? You know, and then I was also tempted with some ideologies that I could go even higher. Like, I had some people from corporate saying, like, just be patient. Like, you know, there may be some other opportunities. And of course, as I'm praying about it, I'm like, well, maybe this is it. Corporate nursing and things like that. Right. And I almost felt like I was, you know, being shown all the kingdoms, but then I was a newer mom. And so that was kind of taking my motherhood, this ideology, because like I said in my bio, is that nursing became my identity. Yeah. And so as I became a mom, I was wrestling, but I'm a nurse, but I'm a mom, but I'm a nurse. And then it's like, so I went through this wrestle, and that's why I believe that this coaching is just a little piece of it. And it allowed me to, like, say, okay, I don't have to fully let go of it, but I do need to be still. And so when I was telling Pastor Jonathan about exiting nursing, I went quickly and I was like, okay, Lord, be still. And then I started creating this whole business plan. And really, God was just saying, Bree, I need you to be still. And of course, I'm over here, like, writing a business plan about what he's saying to me. But he's like, no, I can't speak to you because you're all over the place. And Pastor Jonathan said, like, basically, like, you need to still the waters because you're muddying it all up. Right. And I need to give you clarity. And I was like, oh, this is a word from the Lord. Okay, I'm going to be still. Yeah. And so it's been about a year that I haven't been full time, and I've been stepping into homeschooling, which I never imagined. And it's also healing the little girl in me because I'm actually relearning kindergarten. Yeah. And, like, it's so powerful. And I'm just watching my kids, and I'm like, that's how God sees me, as this little girl. And it's like bringing this, you know, what does it say in the Bible? You will not inherit the kingdom of God unless you become like little children. And I'm like, of course. Yeah.
And it's just been like a journey. And
yeah.
I'm just so thankful for it, because most people in my life, maybe not in the church, but in my life, are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, just trusting God right now.
And that's exactly, and it's so hard, especially when it's not people of like-minded faith, and they're like, what, what are you doing? I think that's been my struggle, even mostly, I think, with my own family, like my boys. I've shared some about that. Like, I worry that, they've seen me walk out this whole ugly life. Maybe not ugly, but, like, they've
Imperfect.
seen me from all of it. And now I, like, want to show up as maybe not somebody that I never claim to know what I'm talking about, but they just, I show up and I just feel like they're going to see that and be like, what are you doing? Because sadly, none of my boys are believers right now. I mean, Matthias, well, I shouldn't say none of them. Bailey, my 27-year-old, is
They're
a believer.
pre-believers, if not.
Yeah. Well, I got one that actually thinks I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but that's okay. That's okay. The Lord is gonna bring him back.
But if it's not radical, Stacey, what is it? You know, like radical obedience, radical faith. Like, you have to step out of like the comfort zone of what looks normal.
I know. Even sometimes my dad will be like, you do too much. And I struggle with that, because I'm like, Lord, I feel like you call me to be home and to be still and to be like humble and create this quiet life. But I'm literally wired to like be an entrepreneur. And I'm like, I don't know how to do all of these. Like, I actually don't know what I could like give up right now and feel at peace about it,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I just need to learn how to be better with my time.
And it's really good. And it's, we actually just went through like the Sabbath, right? Like intentional rest days.
Yes.
So powerful, because then, what I was actually getting when you were talking is kind of similar to what God has shown me, is like these things are all interconnecting. It's just, we don't allow enough time for it to, manifest that way, because we're in it. He sees the big picture. And yes, you're called to many things. Multipurpose Mom.
Right. And I almost switched this.
Really?
This is the name the Lord gave me 20 years ago when I started my first blog. And I almost switched it because my homestead is like the humble homestead. And I was like, I'll switch it to the humble home and I'll just put it all under that umbrella, because I know that like, I don't have the mental capacity for all of the like executive function. I do struggle with that stuff. And I don't know if I joke that it's ADHD. It could be. It could just be that I just have my hands in too much. I don't know. But I almost switched it, and I really felt like the Lord was like, this is what I gave you.
That's so funny, because I almost did the same thing.
You're gonna help people walk out their purpose in whatever season of life. Like your purpose probably was to be that nurse for that season, and now it's to be home more and to be nurse coaching and.
And that's one of the things that, in coaching, is helping moms with transitions, because that's so key. Seasons require transition, and you have to be ready. Going from fall to winter, we know that all too well. Like, it's not a fun time, but we have to get there.
Right.
And so that's just kind of an example, is like transitions as mothers. Like, they don't teach us about this. And it's not that we need to be taught, but in this life and in the school system, where I don't know if you went to public school or not.
I did. All my older boys did too. I wasn't always a homeschooler.
So I was never taught, and my parents are both deaf, so my journey was different. They didn't hear the word, and so now here I am, 33, and they're walking their own journey out too. It's like I know the Father has so much grace for this entire journey, and they didn't teach me biblical standards. So I was using worldly standards, but I was called to more. I felt that. Yeah. And then you wrestle and you deal with, the mental strain of like, who am I? Identity. That was huge for me. And so once I finally, my firstborn in 2020, first time I gave birth is when I recognized like who Jesus was in relationship. Like it was actually the day he was born, and it was on Easter that year. Oh, wow. Such a powerful testimony, and like the Lord is so faithful.
And then you really did get to be still, because you got to be home in 2020.
Oh, yes.
Or were you working as a nurse at the time?
I took a little bit of an early maternity, because I was like, oh yeah, this isn't going to be good for a pregnant mom, because they were like, oh, if you're old and pregnant, then you're high risk. So I ended up delivering in April of that year, and I was nervous. Like, they said maybe your husband could go in, maybe not. And actually at the time we were engaged. So it was a really trying year, but I will say that after the birth of my first son is when I learned how to not be so selfish. I didn't realize how selfish I was.
Motherhood changes you for real. Yeah.
And I am so thankful. And so, like, he is my saving grace. And then I've had personally 3 total. And I just had Emma in 2023, and she helped me to embrace motherhood. So it's like each child has taught me something new and different.
And
it's ever evolving.
As a mom of adult children, they'll just keep on teaching you. They'll just keep on teaching you.
It's a beautiful journey.
It is. So tell me a little bit about your walk, like you're coming into your walk with Christ. What did that look like for you? Because I know you had some addiction in your life. Mm-hmm. Was that like during your nursing years?
I guess it started in like teenage years. Okay. Really. So my journey, I can remember like my freshman year. My sister is like 1.5 years older than me. You could just call it the wrong crowd. Right. And it started like, she would go to parties, and I was kind of like watching. And I'm like, what are you doing? We were always close. We were 1.5 years apart. And it was my freshman year that my sister was getting in trouble, and my dad, mind you, his family's from Monroe, and we were living in Ypsilanti. So he was getting nervous. He was like, okay, what are we going to do here? Because my sister was just like, she was going to these parties.
Just out of control, huh?
So like it got a little wild, and I was kind of observing at first, and then he made the decision to switch our schools. So we went from Lincoln up in Ypsi to Milan, so like 20-minute drive. And he thought maybe that would be helpful. And I'll just make it short. It wasn't. In fact, for me, it was like really distorting, like feeling accepted and like all that stuff. Right. So I was trying to find identity again. Who do I, what groups do I belong to? And so for me personally, like I am working on building maybe a memoir or a book, but I have a lot of notes. And one of the things that the Lord is teaching me about is like also how to help coach families into like what are our solutions. But I would highly recommend not changing schools unless you absolutely have to at that age, because I feel like it was a big thing for me at 14.
Yeah, and especially into a smaller school like Milan, where so many friendship circles and cliques are already established. It's so hard to fit in.
So that was really tough. So I actually had a boyfriend when I went to that school, and his mom went to church in Monroe. Okay. And I actually got saved at full gospel with my boyfriend while, mind you, he was in rebellion. Right. So it was really awkward, but I ended up answering an altar call, had no idea what was happening except for the fact that I knew I was crying and I needed to go answer it. Yeah. And I was actually baptized in the Holy Spirit. But shortly after, we broke up, and I didn't have that discipleship. So it was just a really long journey trying to understand the gifts, and my parents were really trying, but they didn't really know either. Right. So I went through just a really difficult time, and also like depression, different things like that. And so by the time I was a senior in high school, I didn't want to go to school anymore. I was close to dropping out. Wow. But the Lord intervened, and I ended up moving back to Monroe, and I graduated from Monroe High. Okay. Shortly after, I was like, okay, I need to get my life back together. Like, what happened here? And I went to nursing school. I became an LPN I was about 20. Wow. So that's when I tell you my identity got totally wrapped up in nursing.
Because you had nothing else.
I went from like pain, trial, all of that into something that had purpose. And like you said, that season was intentional, and it served its purpose, but then I needed to remove it as an idol. Yeah. So my walk in my 20s was just really kind of all over the place, because like I said, I didn't understand religion, I guess, because that's not what I was trying to understand, like, what does it mean to be a Christian? And I went to different churches, and
and like you said, that discipleship is so key, so important,
so key, important. Especially as a young girl, where I'm just like all over the place. Yeah. So it was like I said, 2020 is when I was like, okay, Lord, like I want to be close to you. I need to know like what to do. And then I felt led to open up my Bible, and I'll never forget. I was probably like, I'm not sure, mid-20s. The Bible that I got when I was a young girl had my name in it. I was like, oh my gosh, the answers have been in my nightstand all this time. I remember just like feeling him like speak to me through the word. And so, 2020, I remember praying and asking God to send me people, and I ended up meeting a bunch of other moms on a mom app where we all had our own microphones from all over the world. It's called Peanut. And I
feel like I've heard of that before.
I'm still connected to some of them. I have a friend from Trinidad, and we talk, and God did that because he knew I needed to talk to like-minded people, and these women taught me how to pray, and we never saw each other, so there was like more of
just a genuine connection.
Yes.
Spiritual connection, really, yeah.
So that was kind of my journey, and so then I found Stewart Road just about a year ago, because I was really looking for a place to like grow my family and really like walk with other believers. And every season has been so intentional with like, building on building and precept on precept. Like he's shown me that he's always been here. He's always been patient. I've been, trying to get ahead. And, all of that.
It's us always trying to. I just said that the other day. I was like, I can make all the plans I want, but the Lord's going to order my steps. And That's so I have to really remember that. And I love that you mentioned like about opening your Bible and how the answers were in your nightstand the whole time and I just shared this with Pastor not too long ago because he talks about like his mom was a casual Christian, and that hit me. I've been in that church off and on. Like we left and went to another church once, but we've been there 28 years, and I feel like I was just like wallowing in this Christianity and this religion in early years, and it really hasn't been but for the last few years that I've really opened my Bible. Because I'm like, I tell people I've been a believer for 28 years. I should be walking in a lot more wisdom than I am. But I was a casual Christian for 25 of those years because I never opened my Bible. I just went to church on Sunday. We would maybe go to church on Wednesdays. And it was just, it's so different now walking it out and reading the manual that we have, so
read the instructions.
That is beautiful. See, this is why I have this timer, because then I know we're getting close. I'm really trying to like keep them listenable, but tell me, is there anything else that you really wanted to touch on before we work on wrapping up? Like anything that you were like really felt led to speak about or to say?
Yeah, I'll just share this one thing because I think it's really powerful. There was a guy online, I think his name is Jeremiah Johnson. I think that's who it was. But I was listening to him a couple years ago, and he said that he had a vision of a group of women traveling in minivans, and that these women were going to change the trajectory of the church in time. And like,
oh, wow.
I received that so strongly, and even now, because back then I wasn't even here, like homeschooling and like seeing what God is doing, and I really believe that, when you read the books of the Bible, you see how special women are, and how developing women is so important, and I just, my heart is for that, and I know that the Father is doing that, like even with our connections here, and so I wanted to share that because it really does.
That is awesome, because I speak very firmly about I will be in my minivan for life, and if I have to travel to teach women, to share with women how to walk out their purpose, I will get in that minivan and go.
And I didn't even know she had a minivan.
That's so funny. That. I know. I tell people, man, this is like my covered truck. You will never get me out of it. I didn't have one when all the boys were younger. Well, we did. We had a conversion van for, I don't know. It's always used cars, so it changes a lot. So
yeah, I'm actually in an expedition right now because my minivan was older, and I told my husband, I said, if I have to deal with another winter where my doors get frozen shut, I don't know.
That is one downfall.
But I do miss my minivan, and we're talking about that possibly coming back to life.
So what do you like to do? What gives you like extra purpose? Like what do you like to do for you? Like for fun or for,
I used to dread that question, right? Like, what are your hobbies? It's like, do I have hobbies? But really, honestly, because of how much I spent in the workforce, I really do enjoy being with my kids.
Yeah.
And doing things that I never thought I could do, like being with my kids all day and going on mom meetups and things like that. I do love that.
No, I think that's valid and I talked, even before Pastor talked about the Sabbath, some people say, well, how do you do it all? And I'm like, I probably don't do it perfectly, of course, like there's always room for growth, but I take the Sabbath pretty seriously, and it is Sunday for me. Like, yes, we go to church. Sometimes we have family dinners. I do spend time at home, like, maybe not meal prepping, but like getting things ready. I do those home things that I'm like going all week and I don't get to do because those are relaxing for me. So like to work in the garden or to can something that day or whatever. Like that is sabbatical for me. Like that is like calming for me. So
it's a place
I get
of
that.
rest. And for me,
I don't book photo shoots. I don't work. I don't edit. I don't care how far behind I am. Not doing it on Sunday.
That's good. And for me, I feel like I'm in a sabbatical year because of my journey. And I've actually planted jalapeno plants. I'm stepping into that, and I feel like this homestead journey for mothers, like it's so needed. And I just pray for our community to weave that into education, because I don't remember that in my journey.
Right.
And
I'm just learning it all as I go.
So it's so awesome, because it's like you're getting in touch with the simple things, and that's, I believe that's, what we're called to. And so where, I used to be like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. It's like, how about I plant something today? And then I'm working with my kids, like we're going to measure how tall it's getting. And you can actually see the hand of God on it too. Because you can actually, reflect and be like, wow, this is how you deal with us.
We have to emerge from the dirt.
Yes, exactly.
I love that.
So
thank you, Bree, so much for coming and being here. I love that you're, like, most people probably won't see it, but you're dressed all nice, and I'm like leggings and a t-shirt. It's fine.
I don't get out much.
I'm like, I need a shirt where I need a chair where I can like kick back and get more comfy.
Yes, like the reclining chairs.
Yeah, but
we'll get you little.
I want to thank you so much for being here with me today.
Me.
And for the audience, thank you for tuning in again. And just remember that you were created on purpose for purpose. Have a great day. Thank you.